What is up, Dan and Damien? Hey, today's the day again. House Republicans plan to vote up Obamacare replacement 2.0 and apparently have a compromise worked out with some of the moderate members of the caucus that were holdouts, including Fred Upton of Michigan, Billy Long of Missouri.
Billy Long of Missouri, he might need some health care. Well, I'm sorry, too soon?
He
needs the apple cider vinegar diet.
He could use to.
He looks like he's suffocating. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that too rude?
He get a little bit bigger neck size.
They
on the
do
next,
make...
the next round of Oxford.
As we always say, they come in larger sizes.
It's true, even if you have to special order. The main issue was the coverage of pre-existing conditions and the alteration from 1.0 to 2.0 that would provide waivers at the state level that were not provided in the first version. This was to satisfy the House Freedom Caucus. This had moderates wetting themselves over the idea they'd get tagged with being opposed to covering people with pre-existing conditions. Of course, the so-called MacArthur Amendment to version 2.0 necessarily includes that if a state would seek waiver on the pre-existing conditions coverage mandate, they would then be folded into a high-risk pool so that provisions would still be made for those with pre-existing conditions. So there was not a walk away from coverage of persons with pre-existing conditions that represent about 4% of the overall marketplace.
Really? It's just 4%?
Yes.
Wow. Well, the AARP today had said, 40% of older Americans have pre-existing health conditions.
The amendment would add $8 billion over 5 years to a 10-year, $130 billion fund, this high-risk pool fund, to protect people in the individual insurance market who need high-cost treatments, because that's the real issue. It's the cost of the treatment, not the insurance up front. And so that's apparently what has sealed the deal with enough centrist Republicans, the so-called Tuesday group, to get this through and over to the Senate, where it will be summarily torn apart and we'll start all over.
Exactly.
For more on this and other topics, including the tax plan, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Steve Moore, Heritage Foundation, Wall Street Journal columnist, senior economist for CNN, and former Trump economic advisor. Steve, what say you about health care or Obamacare Replace 2.0 to be voted up by the House today?
Hi, Dan. Hi, Amy. Well, this has been a long time in coming. Finally, we're going to get that vote. And by the way, I'll believe it when I see it. You know, I thought they had the vote 6 or 7 weeks ago when it went down. So I do think this time they're at 218, but they're very close to 218. So, you know, they don't have more than 1 or 2 votes to lose. You know, I had an interesting discussion on CNN last night. I was debating my friend Austin Goolsbee, as you guys know, was the chief economist for Obama, and he was saying, "Oh my God, pre-existing conditions. You know, everyone's going to lose their health care, and this is the most awful thing Republicans are doing." And I tried to explain to the CNN audience and to Austin that, look, if you have a pre-existing condition, you can't get insurance for it, right? I mean, the whole idea of the word insurance is where you're insuring against some unforeseen event coming. If your house is already on fire, you can't get fire protection. Now, look, I have, as you know, and I have a niece who has epilepsy. She has a pre-existing condition. My sister has high health care costs. Of course, you know, we want to take care of those people, but you don't put all of the people who already have a pre-existing condition and really high health care costs in an insurance pool with everyone else, or it drives up the cost of insurance for everyone,
right.
and then it leads to the death spiral that Obamacare is in right now, where healthy people drop out, and then the cost of insurance goes up and up and up. So the point of this Republican bill is to try to get these insurance costs down for healthy people, so they do buy insurance, so they are insured against, you know, if they get cancer or they have a terrible accident. But you can't, again, I want to say this one more time because it's a basic law of economics that liberals don't understand. You can't insure against something that's already happened.
Well, so CNN was reporting this morning that with this new repeal and replace bill, that premiums are going to go up 10 to 15%. Is that true?
You mean under the new plan?
Yes.
Well,
I mean, have you read? I don't know if you've read it, and I don't know if any legislators have read it either. I mean, maybe they'll pass it first and then read it.
that's true, that premiums are going to go up for 10, 15%, that's a big improvement. I mean, this year the premiums are going up 25, 30%. So I was in Arizona 3 weeks ago, guys. In Arizona, the premiums have doubled under Obamacare. I mean, this is the other thing that's been left out of the debate by the liberal media, is this idea that, gee, all we have to do is keep Obamacare in place and everything will be fine. No, folks. If we keep Obamacare in place, in a few years, everybody's going to lose their insurance because there won't be any functioning insurance markets left. You're going to have massive cost increases. You're going to have massive numbers of people dropping out of the insurance market. So this is a stopgap to prevent the whole healthcare system from imploding, in my opinion.
Well, right, and to your point, yesterday Aetna pulled out of the Virginia exchange, right? So I mean, this has just been happening and happening. This is the point that Dr. Tom Price makes about the number of people that have one choice in terms of a health insurance provider.
I was just going to say that, Dan. In more than 1 in 3 counties in America today, there's only one insurance company. So if there's only one insurance company, then you don't have much choice, and you have absolutely no choice. By the way, in some counties, there's no insurance companies left providing coverage. And to me, the heart of the matter is letting people have more choices in what they buy and having more companies to choose from. And the way you do that is through the interstate competition. That if you live in Illinois, you can buy a policy in Iowa or a policy in Utah or Virginia, and then do the medical malpractice reform and so on that is just siphoning money off to the trial lawyers that cost everyone. I mean, there's a lot of obvious things that need to be done that, by the way, that are not necessarily in this bill, but are on the Republican to-do list in terms of fixing this. But you got to have interstate competition, because then instead of only one company, you'll have 100 companies to choose from.
All right. Speaking of the Republican to-do list, tax reform is also near the top of that to-do list. And I want to get your reaction to the one-page summary promulgated by your friends Mnuchin and Cohn. Well, I don't know about they're your friends, but and then the relatively tepid reaction from both Wall Street and even many in Republican circles, because they're so obsessed with this idea of the plan being deficit neutral.
Well, first of all, I'm going to brag on myself for a minute, because you won't.
Yes.
And say that this was really inspired by a statement that Steve Forbes and Art Laffer and Larry Kudlow and I put out a week before, saying, look, number one, get going. Why? This should be at the very, very top of the to-do list. Number two, don't be boxed in by this idea of revenue neutrality. Number three, get rid of the border adjustable tax. And four, concentrate on getting those rates down. And that's exactly what this plan did. And I was over at the White House last week, and Mnuchin and Steve Bannon were saying, Trump saw your piece and he pointed to it and said, this is what we got to do, guys. So that was pretty exciting. I love the plan. Look, if we can grow the economy faster, we can get up to, say, 3% growth, which is, hardly shooting for the moon. It's less than the average growth rate for the last 50 years. Then you're going to see a lot more revenue coming in. You're going to see a lot more jobs. And that's what Republicans have to concentrate on. They cannot wait until 2018 to get this done. The economy is faltering a little bit. I mean, did you guys know over the last 18 months, the economic growth rate of the country has been 1.5%?
Right.
And that's just pathetic. You're never going to solve any budget problems with 1.5% growth. You've got to get the growth rate up, and this bill will do it.
By the way, we had Steve Forbes on the show yesterday, and he did nothing but sing your praises, Steve Moore. So
Steve Moore, we have you to thank for the one-page tax plan.
Yeah, well,
Just
I
say
have
it.
to say, my friend Austin Goolsbee did have a good line last night. He said, Republicans have promised to have a, postcard return. I don't know about that, but they have a postcard tax plan. But, there are still a lot of details that need to be filled out. But I think what Trump was doing is saying, look, these are the goals that I want. These are the principles that I want. We have, I'll say it for the umpteenth time on your guys' show, we have the highest business taxes in the world. We have corporate inversions where companies are leaving the United States because of this. We're losing jobs. We're not competitive. We're losing jobs to China and Mexico and Ireland. I was in Dublin about 2 years ago. All you see in Dublin, Ireland, is American companies located there, the factories, the plants, because they're at 12% and we're at 40%. You don't have to be a mathematician to know if you have to choose between a 40% tax rate and 12% rate, you go to Ireland where you pay 12, and you leave Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois.
Even Bono understands that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
So I got to get your take on this, Steve, because of the importance of think tanks and including prominent ones like, I don't know, the Heritage Foundation.
Yep.
The departure of Jim DeMint from the Heritage Foundation, the re-entrance of Ed Follner, the previous president, for now as a search for DeMint's replacement goes on, and what that means, a lot of stories about the internal dynamics and what did or didn't happen. That's not as interesting to me, but in terms of the future of the Heritage Foundation and the important role that it plays, as it frankly seemed to be ascendant under DeMint with respect to impact on public policy.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, that, came as a shocker to me. And another thing I have to tell your listeners, almost everything that you read in the newspapers and these news accounts has been wrong.
Yeah.
Everything that was that, that this was a coup by the board and da-da-da. I love Jim DeMint. He's a good friend. I think he did a great job as CEO of Heritage. I don't really completely understand why he's gone, but the good news is that Ed Follner, who started Heritage, is taking over, and the board wanted to move in a bit of a different direction. And I think that the institute is in good hands. We'll see. There's going to be about a 6-month period where they're going to have a search committee. And Dan or Amy, if you want to throw your name in the hat, I'm happy to recommend you guys.
I will write a letter of recommendation for Amy.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
We could use a woman at the top.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. This woman's ready to go. Kidding.
But I don't really have more details. I think a lot of the people at Heritage were kind of stunned by the whole thing. And I agree with you. I think, look, Trump has really relied heavily on Heritage, whether it's getting Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, whether it's his budget, whether it's his tax plan. So I think, I'll say this, Jim DeMint can leave with his head up because he did a great job.
He is Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, Heritage Foundation, chief economist, senior economist for CNN, former Trump economic advisor, and apparently current Trump economic advisor at large because he wrote the tax plan.
Yeah, he's the tax plan tax man.
All right, guys, get your applications in for that job. It's not going to stay open for long.
Can I use you as a reference?
You got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve Moore.
You guys have a great week.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.